showcase of what we've had for condition-wise, and actually to see it all together like that, there was a lot of different conditions. It was crazy.
We've had a bit of everything this week. And just asking those questions of our competitors. One of them has been good enough to join us in the booth. Carl, it's been great having you, mate. Listen, best of luck the rest of the season. A lot of people would love to see you get back in that top 10. So good luck with that. Good luck in the ISAs.
Yeah, especially at the end of November, right? When it's all done and said, right?
Yeah, Matt. Thank you very much, for this chat. I think it's the first time in this year that they invite me to the booth.
You won your heat.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that he's like, it feels like a heat coming in here.
He got through. He got through.
I got through Japan and Azores. No, but Matt, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to share with you guys, with the fans.
Congratulations on the fatherhood.
Exactly, yeah.
Before you go, pick for the final. Pick out these two. I'm going to put you on the spot. Choose a name.
Jake
for the first win.
Pete happy.
Yeah, sure. Hey, that's pretty cool. I mean, again, I think both whoever wins deserves it.
New blood. I like the surprises always, and I think he deserves it. He's very focused. I fight with him a couple of hits, and I think he has what it takes.
It's always nice to lose to the winner too.
Yeah, thank you everybody. Back in Costa Rica, if you're watching, everybody in Latin America, all the world. Thank you to my sponsors for making me come here, and pura vida, I appreciate it.
All right, we're going to go to break now. We'll be back with our final down here at Pantin, Saturday evening, finals evening. Join us for the final heat of the event right after this break. Welcome back to Pantin, final Saturday afternoon. We're going to swap out the youthful exuberance of Carlos Munoz and welcome back the encyclopedic knowledge of Gig Cilliers.
Great to be back. Pete and Paul, I tell you what, so many good stories have unfolded here this week in Pantin, just taking it and pumping it up from a QS 3000 to a QS 10,000. Of course, both men's and women's. It really has been, this will be one, you're talking about encyclopedia, there's a whole bunch of stuff to add to the stats and the takeaway stories from the qualifying series at the end of today.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we talk about those kind of bringing that momentum in and the different sort of path that's come through and the different sort of energy. And a really good story, looking at our two finalists, just how it shaped up. We were thinking Jadson bringing that kind of heat and that energy from last night. And you just think with Jake Marshall being able to stop him, that's going to give him so much confidence coming into this final.
Well, when we got out of bed this morning with those 8 surfers, there were more Australians in the draw than Brazilians for the first time in a long time. But one of the Brazilians has put his hand up. So all kudos to Miguel Pupo. Nice all-round bloke. And we're going to see how he takes on that other young name, of course, an American flag in it all.
Yeah, well, there's one American flag, and he's all the way there to the final, so good for him to be able to get there. I'd like to look at, kind of like putting these two in this heat, what would be their strengths and weaknesses of it. For me, a little SWOT report, we'll say. And for me, I think that if you look at what Miguel has been able to do, one of his advantages is probably in the air. He's got that left, he's going to got the wind in his favor. He's got the forehand. It's a high consistency rate as far as his makes on those big airs. He can do it with just one section, so all of a sudden it takes a certain wave quality out of the picture. So I think that he's got to keep that in his mind. We've seen Jake, exceptional off the rail and the speed that he carries. And ultimately, he's going to have to use that wage knowledge and that expertise that he seems to be really good at with one-on-one competition is just finding the two best waves in the heat and converting on them. So he's going to have to keep doing that.
Yeah, the precision, speed, and timing of Jake Marshall has really been top order. It's been, and we haven't seen him go to the air a lot, Pete.
No, he has it in his repertoire, but I'll tell you, he doesn't really have to. I mean, if he can just keep springing into the lip and drifting the fins, he's going to be just fine.
Well, I think that's key as a really interesting point. And, maybe it feels like a little bit like we're seeing a Miggy 2.0 a little bit. He talks about the air game. He just seems like fresh. Maybe like his surfing skills have always been there, but just his general approach, he just seems a bit more fired up to compete. I'm just wondering with Jake Marshall, maybe doesn't quite need the sections. You got to think if Miguel's getting those sections and he needs to take off on the landing to cooperate, he could go really big with the points. But maybe Jake could just get slightly more average waves and get really big scores. Be interesting to see.
Well, I guess we'll find out here in a moment's time. Love to understand we've been fortunate here, just the three of us as well as Shannon, to watch every heat in this event. Matter of fact, you watched every heat of the longboarding as well. But we've kind of been able to pick up on the vibes of not only the judging panel but of the surfers that have been getting through. I'd love to have your input on what you think about the strengths of Jake or Miguel in this one.
Yeah, it is a tough call. Jake in that semi-final ran aground for a while. And we started talking about it of, is he in unknown territory? Does he have the mettle? And then he dug deep, found those 2 scores, and got that all-important advance to the final. So you're kind of speculating there is a lot of momentum in that man on screen right now.
And there's that warm-up. Of course, this is the final event of this one, the newly upgraded ABANCA Galicia Classic Surf Pro. I finally figured out how to say the name properly. And again, thanks to ABANCA for jumping in and the region of Galicia and understanding the importance of this event and stepping in there and upgrading it to 10,000 for both men and women.
Well, one of the hardest people to beat in the lineup this whole week was Jadson Andre, and Jake Marshall did just that. So you think that forward momentum now, he's going to take that same approach that he really salvaged that semi-final with and take it up against Miguel.
Well, for me, Miguel's got that big event experience that Jake's just hasn't. He's just now starting to navigate into.
Yep.
So ultimately, he's had finals before on the championship tour for Miguel, so he can kind of draw off that and come into this one probably a bit more level-headed because of the experiences he's carrying. Whereas Jake's just like, oh my gosh, this is the opportunity. I'm going to go big, and he doesn't. He's got to contain himself. Whereas Miguel's probably already there in that mindset.
Exactly, and also just away from the surfing itself, Miguel, a lot more QS points on the board already this year, so that could be a factor as well. Maybe I don't know if that's a factor, but he's already getting himself in a real strong position. But Jake Marshall will fly up. So Miguel coming in 8th into this event. Well, these could be close by it. We'll see how this ends up, but definitely putting a real strong chance of improving and getting that spot on the championship tour.
I like this. Introing the finalists to the crowd.
Let's put them on the spot.
Yeah, it's like a boxing match, right? Should almost have a weigh-in.
See if we can get some here and there. Yeah.
Well, beach commentator David Prescott just plugging in with both Jake Marshall and Miguel Pupo. Of course, thousands of fans just absorbing this sort of weigh-in, so to speak, for the finals.
Mate, the crowd down here today has gone next level. I've been coming to this event for a few years. Don't know if I've ever seen it quite like this. It's a massive amount of people. We had the Panting Sound Waves going last night. There's a bunch of stuff going on down here. But it's a really knowledgeable surf crowd. We talked about that history. 3+ decades, and these guys, they know how to appreciate their surfing.
And of course, the sun is out. It's a nice warm afternoon, just coming into prime time. Tide's just about right, so it looks like we're going to have a final here very, very soon.
Yep, it's all festive here at the 3rd QS 10,000 of the year. Of course, this is a great addition. We spoke of that value, the upgrade from the 3,000 to the 10,000. It's shaking up that qualifying series rankings. I mean, Jake Marshall's coming hurtling all the way up,
yeah.
Of course, from in the 20s. And then what about the 2 young Australians as well? I mean, they've also just rocketed way up from the 60s and 80s on the QS. So these are the inputs that come from these big opportunities.
Yeah, this is their Al Hunt sheet here. This is real-time rankings. And as of right now, you have Miguel Pupo, who is at 9th starting the day out. You have Jake Marshall starting the day out at 13th. Now, if Miguel wins, 17,900 points for him total at the event. He'll move up to number 3 in the rankings. If Jake wins, 17,300 for him, he moves up to number 4 in the rankings. So both these surfers generally, even the lowest numbers they're going to have, they're going to stay well within the top 10 now for real-time rankings, and which is in qualification. But we still have a few more events to happen, so they're going to have to keep that momentum pushing.
Well, of course, the other good news with all of this is Jake Marshall will, by making the finals here in Spain, be part of the Freshwater Pro. It's great. It's a great story, and one that we almost speculated: does he turn down the opportunity and go for more points in the QS and the Azores? We asked that question to Matt Banting, right?
Yeah, exactly. Interesting, and he was like, "No, I think I'll go for it. A bit more cash up for grabs there." And because it's a 6,000, I think if it was a 10, that'd be a much tougher decision. Because it's a 6,000, I think he can afford to take on the world's very best in the championship tour. What an opportunity!
Well, and it'll be his first. He's had kind of chances by going to trials and so forth, but this will be and it's a spotlight event, really. I mean, you think about it. you couldn't have a bigger spotlight on you when you're sitting there and you hear that chain start ripping across the the line, and you're about ready to catch your wave, and you know that everyone's going to be looking at you. It is so much pressure. I mean, if you wanted to sit yourself in a situation and feel the pressure as a surfer, that's it. I mean, literally, when there's no one there and you hear that chain start moving, it's nerve-wracking because you don't want to blow it. And of course, that's the case, right? So it'll be a good experience for him no matter what.
And I just want to counter that point that you make there, Pete. Miguel Pupo, in warm-up here for the finals of the QS10, he got a 5th place finish there last year. He was a star performer.
Yeah, so that's true. And again, he was able to do it because, again, that's a wave where, we're a different style and format of competing. You're on a leaderboard format. You're going out there. You're going to get judged on your best left and your best right. They both have to count. So no matter what, you can't just go, your advantage is on your forehand and you go right the whole time, and you can get 9s on the right, but you only get 6s on the left. You're not going to do very well. So you got to figure out how to get 9s on the left as well.
Well, we're talking about the up-and-coming freshwater pro. That man in red will be part of that in Lemoore, California in just over a week's time. But right now, the opportunity to take, for him, the moment and really turn it into an all-career best. Of course, already a career best here for the North San Diego surfer, Jake Marshall, making the finals here in Pantene.
Digging the prep, almost like the swimmer.
He was straight up. He was pumping himself up. Right here, you jump in the water. This is that moment. You're like, okay, now I'm paddling out. This is an experience that I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. Let's make it a good one.
Well, that water is fresh, folks. It's got a little sting to it. It's It's definitely Santa Cruz cold, Peter.
It is. There we saw Siblick. He was wearing booties, man. That's the only place you see that on the tour is Santa Cruz when we have events there. But now finally we get to see it happen here, or Scotland. I guess remember we were up in your hood there for a bit. Can we get that event back?
Such a good event. The Coldwater Classic up in Thursday was epic. I'm campaigning for that.
Yeah, same.
I'm going to pester Al and the rest of the World Surf League, see if we can get Scotland back.
Yeah, that was a great team.
It's a world-class wave. I mean, yeah, we have to deal with tides and we have to pinpoint it perfectly, but ultimately, I remember watching a few heats in that zone. Fun event.
If you're just with us, it is the finals coming up of the third QS 10,000 of the year. It is the ABANCA Galicia Classic Surf Pro coming to you from the northwest, the beautiful, wonderful coastline here. It really just has been a very successful week, a true feather in the cap for both men's and women's surfing here. Of course, 2019 sees the gender equality story really unfold with women's getting QS 10,000 events. Of course, the first one, the US Open of surfing, and now this one here, the Pantene Classic of the old days. Of course, 30 years of history here, Paul. You would, Paul, and of course Pete as well. In your qualifying series days, you spoke of your campaigns to the region, and we love to just dig into the whole story as we've seen so many young surfers here looking for those points. It's been a wonderful week. There's been a lot of content that is going to come out of this.
Well, as you remember, there was a bit of there's always been a European leg, and pretty much every European leg included this event. Whether it was a 2-star or 1-star, it's gone through all reiterations. By far, this being the biggest it's ever been. And obviously the crowds recognize that. They see that the talent that is shown up for this event is much more because of the ranking of the event. We also added the women, which brought all of the top women. So really, everyone understood that. And that's why they're here to watch it live, because their best surfers in the world are here to compete.
You see the lineup here for the finals. Of course, the Whitecaps still blowing. We've almost had a week of northerly winds here, but it's kept the ocean consistent. How are we describing wave size out there, Pete? Sort of shoulder high, the odd head high set?
It's perfect size for the banks. It's perfect size, for both these surfers to, from yesterday and today. It's just really, more than anything, we just want to see both surfers get those opportunities. We want to see who's going to deal with the extra pressure. I want to see who's going to be coming out there swinging. Every final is a little bit different. And, I don't know. Wow, thinking about it, who's going to win this one? I guess it's whoever plays to their strengths the best in this next 35 minutes.
Yeah, it's going to be a great final. We're getting very close to the start of it now. Paul, you were mentioning that you've done several seasons here in Pantene. Surf conditions as a whole, the summary for the week that we've had compared to previous years?
I don't think I've ever seen this much surf hit. I've seen a bit of everything, but normally I have quite a few small days. Quite often go and hold as well around the high tide. And we've been relatively lucky. It's going to sound weird, some people watching, but there's actually been quite small tides around here. We've actually had neap tides most of this week. They started off quite big, but they've been getting smaller and smaller. So quite often we'll go and we won't be able to run at high tide, and we've not really had that. So we've been really, really blessed with conditions. And, you know, we think about a couple of days ago, some of the surfers are calling it like 8-10 feet, you know, some absolute bombs. So a bit of excitement, a bit of drama. And, we've been blessed. It's been really, truly fun.
It's just after 5:30 in the afternoon here in Playa de Pantin. As you see your two finalists there, Jake Marshall and Miguel Pupo, about to go to battle here. And noticing, Pete, before we get the horn underway, that of course they do open up the time scale here a little bit. We've been running on 30-minute heats here. Now the finals, they'll just open that clock.
35-minute final. Always, usually you'll see the finals being the longest heat of an event. Just the extra 5 minutes to give the surfers that extra 5, but also give the crowd the extra 5. It is the final.
Well, while we wait for our athletes to get that countdown, we'll take a quick break and we'll be back for more. Stay with us. We're about to get stuck into the finals of the ABANCA Galicia Classic Surf Pro. Welcome to the finals of the ABANCA Galicia Classic Surf Pro, the third QS 10,000 of the season. Of course, 2019 featuring 6 QS 10,000s. A great addition here to the World Surf League's qualifying series. It is a good afternoon from the beautiful region of Galicia in Spain. Gig Saliers alongside Paul Evans for the call as we get stuck into a very interesting final here. The experience of Miguel Pupo, the Brazilian, up against, well, someone that's had all that potential and has really kept it on track here through this big QS 10,000 draw. Jake Marshall from North San Diego County in California. Still really hard. We were talking off screen, Paul, trying to pick a winner on this one. It's going to be a toughie.
Yeah, but I think we can expect to see some surfing of the very highest caliber. I'm frothing. I just want to get this going now. I can't wait to see these two going at it. Think about the entertainment factor of that man, Pupo. And every single heat he's put together, you know, he's taking the biggest risks. He's being radical, and he's just really opening up that range of scores with those aerial maneuvers, with this sort of general approach, kind of creative, sort of carefree. So despite having all that experience, almost kind of comes with that slightly more youthful sort of things. Like the real kind of nice stage where he's like bridging both worlds, being the wily kind of veteran, but also, you know, surfing with that kind of youth. So really impressive to see him. And of course Marshall, who's looked just so smooth, been able to blend, looking great at all times with being radical and super fast. So bring it on.
This has been one of those qualifying series events that really has seen names jumping into the full spotlight. It was a classic case on the women's side in the QS 10,000 with a young Amura Suzuki from absolute obscurity into the big showcased light here, and it was really a great win a couple of days back with the Japanese taking a win over Bronte McCauley there. So you start speculating this is the kind of melting pot that could see Jake Marshall just go over the top of the experience of Miguel Pupo here. You're joining us. It is the finals of the QS 10,000. 35-minute heat now with 32 to go and no rides for either of our surfers. As we dig into all of these twisting, turning stories of the qualifying series. Of course, Miguel Pupo has been on the championship tour level since 2011. That was the season with the mid-rotation where we got the qualifying series surfers jumped up to championship tour at the mid-year stage. Of course, he jumped up there with Gabriel Medina and John Florence. So it was interesting to see him. He's been around that long. That's how long he's been really as a young teenager already making it to that highest level. Of course, Medina did steal a lot of the limelight that 2011 year and waiting for the opening ride. And here it comes. This is American Jake Marshall. Quick into action here. Lovely precision surfing. This personifies exactly what he's been doing all week long. And he'll take that momentum from round upon round, and he'll bring us the opening score of the finals here in Spain.
Well, this is going to feel great, right? Because early on in the heat, he gets an opportunity. He didn't fall. He nailed his turns. All right. Might not be the most kind of epic looking wave we'll see during this funnel, but he surfed it really well. He pretty much maximized the opportunity out there, and he finished off strong. So just in terms of just giving you that little extra kick, you know, you're firing yourself up on the sand, getting ready, then you kind of paddle out and sort of sit there for a bit, right? So it's that really interesting kind of shift overall in energy, physical and mental. You fired up, then you sit down. And now he's got himself a good wave, and he's finished it off. We'll get a reasonable number. It's certainly going to help his position. It will count for him. Good start from Jake. Going to just have another look and wind this back. So a smaller wave, but we've seen him plug away on some of these smaller ones, and that's what he'll do. You know, we've used that expression spark in terms of talking about our surfers. It's very befitting for this young American. See that whip he gets. He stabs so much of that board through the lip, and he does those turns with so much speed. Just goes straight into his next bottom turn. And as this wave got a little bit of slopey down on the inside, he just waited on that last execution for that last hit and made sure he swung that board to great effect.
Well, good definition and structure in the turns. As we see him swinging now and going for a wave number 2 on the wave out. This is going to be the kind of opportunities that he'll be looking for. That one not quite panning out. Meanwhile, swinging into action for the opener is Miguel. Lovely spray flying there, lots of speed, and just gets the tail going. And that was a great opener for Miguel Pupo and thousands of people here. This is almost like the US Open of surfing. In fact, it is the same amount of points and prize money, and that was a great opener for Miguel.
Oh, epic. I love it. He absolutely belted that thing, and just to flare up on the finish as well. The crowd loved it. He enjoyed it too. He'll finish up all the way down there on the rocks in that rip that our surfers have been using to get themselves back in the lineup at the end of those long left-handers. But the speed in this wave, there's so much power as well. You see the water just drawing off the bank, and he'll just rip these turns off the top. It sort of pumps off the bottom, and then I love that flare on the end. It's done with so much speed. He didn't kind of have to aim or scratch at that section. He just flowed into it nicely and reversed out that turn, and you're probably thinking that is going to be a massive number.
Well, I tell you what, you can't argue against that. You know, there are critics in the sport as always, but that was on point. That had speed, power, flow, control, combination of maneuvers, and the progressive element. It's going to be hard to argue against an excellent category. As now also seizing opportunity on the way out. This is wave number 2. Quick combination. And that is a quick stitch of 2 rides back to back there. So we're just down to the first 7 minutes of this final here in Pantin, Spain. And Miguel Pupo is on the front foot. We'll wait for the judges just to simmer on that. Already seeing a number in the black box top left of screen. It's made up of the 683 for Jake Marshall's opener. As we go to the replays of back-to-backs here.
Yeah, just trying to recreate the mojo from his semi, getting a really strong start. He banged a couple of 7s and then an 8 in the first 5 minutes of his semi-final. And he's nabbed a second good wave hit. You see him set up with that little rip down off the top. And then he'll just belt a really steep draining out section. That's not an easy turn to do. And a real good start from the Brazilian.
Wow, Miguel Pupo on the front foot. Judges collecting scores. Of course, Miguel, now 27 years of age, a father of his own now. Of course, second generation Brazilian. Father, his dad, Wagner Pupo, will be watching this and just lapping it all up. Of course, the 2 brothers, Pupoya Samuel, going far in the draw as well. And scores are checking in here, Paul, for those 2 meaty numbers. Miguel Pupo, that last one, the 2-turn combination, is going to get a 6 from the panel. But the previous ride with the air rotation, a really complete package for an 8.5.
Yep, massive going into the excellent range early on in the heat. And he just got that little bonus one, didn't he? As he was kind of making his way back out. 6 comes in, so the judges were impressed with it, but they don't want to go too high with that kind of surfing in this because they are expecting much more. So are we. So the ball, you would think, now in Jake Marshall's court with that prior. It'll be interesting to see how he goes in his approach on his next effort. He got a small one early on, and you just think about the size and the impact of that set ridden by Pupo. So we're expecting maybe Jake might fancy one of the bigger waves now.
Well, moving down to the 26-minute mark, and the final is electric here. People are stacked in by the thousands. Let's throw it down to Shannon Quirk. What have you got for us, Shannon?
Hey guys, we're here on the mountainside. There are thousands of people here with some of the locals. Who do you think's going to win this heat?
Miguel Pupo.
All right. Well, what about you girls? Here from Caruña, who do you think is going to win? Pupo. Well, it sounds like all the locals here in this area, at least, think Miguel. We'll see. Give a nice wave to the camera. We'll throw it back to Giggs and Paul.
Well, it's festive here. We said it. We're packing it in here in Pantene in Spain.
No love for Jake.
No love for Jake.
Lots of Pupo fans down there.
I think if she'd walked a few yards down, there would have been a few people who would have shouted. There's many people shouting for the young Jake Marshall. Of course, the relatively unknown name in the comparison between our two finalists. Here goes Miguel Pupo, former championship tour surfer. We saw him in 9 events last year, and he's popping to the air again, and just a soft landing. Will not ride out of the cushion on that one. And that was already wave number 4 for Miguel Pupo, so keeping a work rate here in this QS 10,000 final. And just showing us where he wants to take this. Remember, he's already fetched an 8.5, Paul. Is he going to finish this final with 2 excellence?
Well, how often have we seen him do that? That was under Jake's priority, and he'll just snaffle up little opportunities. He'll hoover up sections is what we'll try and do, and just pump for speed, and then try and speculate where the big punt. Doesn't get the rotation done on the end then. But it does still leave Jake Marshall waiting for a bomb in the lineup.
Well, as you say that, you'll cue him in here, Paul. Here we go. Jake Marshall flexes through that white water. Lovely from behind. Good approach from Jake Marshall on that one. That particular wave just shifting a little wide and over, a little far to the north. Got a little touch soft in the rip there. So we'll go back to the drawing board with 24 on the clock. And this is making for great entertainment. People from all over the northwest of Spain. In fact, there'll be people who have driven 6 to 8 hours here across the country to come and be part of this festival atmosphere. And no, they're not being disappointed right now.
He got a bit unlucky with that one, didn't he? A little bit unlucky. He was just slightly late with this first turn. Let's have a look at it. You see he goes up here and he just gets a wee bit held up. And there's only a fraction in it. But that just puts him ever further back. And that one just races away from him. So not able to use that priority to great effect. It'll just come in as a smaller number for him. As we're just checking out that last throwaway of Pupo. So it went for a nice lofty air. He just kind of ran out of spin as he was trying to finish off that rotation on the landing. Won't get it done. It'll be a small number for him, but certainly so far the early running, as with the semi, is advantage Pupo.
Well, that's set just a touch over towards the rip, and both of those end sections just going soft for both of our respective finalists. A great encounter here between Miguel Pupo and Jake Marshall. Marshall's going to fetch a 3.83 for now, so just a 2-turn backhand combo. So here's the look at the final thus far. Requirements for the American trailing, a 7.68. Of course, we look at that score of Miguel Pupo currently holding a 6. You know that he's easily going to up that with plenty of time. So Jake, we saw the slow start in the semi-finals, and it was the harder. I mean, I want to say this respectfully, okay, because there was a relatively unknown young Australian by the name of Morgan Sibilik in the other semi-final. When you look back to the semi-final that Jake had to hurdle over, he had to get past Jadson Andre. No easy feat here because Jadson has been on fire all week long here.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. And what a story. Getting to that final, getting past Jadson. So he'll bring that into this, that energy, that kind of confidence from the semi. That would have been part of his preparation, but at some point, if I just forget that and start focusing on this, he's in a completely different ocean, relatively speaking now, in a completely different situation, and he'll just need to think about certainly trying to go as big as he can on the scoreboard, not be too rattled by that 8.5 that's coming, because we know he's capable of those kind of scores.
Well, he's picking this one out underneath the priority of Miguel Pupo. Setting those lines, nice combination. That's a big hack right there. So good, solid maneuver to finish off his wave number 5 of the final. And nice momentum on that one. Will easily replace the score for now. So just keeping himself busy. You just see him getting worked over in the white water here. There's a lot of energy in the North Atlantic here. We mentioned the water is on the very chilly side. So a long day for Jake and for Miguel, both on their third surfs of the day.
Yeah, so a good wave from him. Miguel must have let him go because he didn't have priority. There, he just stings the first one off the top. And then there's a bit of a setup here, but it finished with loads of energy and impetus. That's a nice exclamation mark to put at the end of your ride. We talked about him just tweaking out that tail on those backhand hits. That's what he did on the end there in a really steep section. First hit was nice. Love the way he just drives off the bottom straight from his turns clean into the next one. And that is a real technical turn on the end. And the judges tend to lap up that little bit of hang time. When the surfer gets to the lip early, belts it, just release a little bit of tail. And then as the wave explodes, you just hang up there for a little bit before you drop down. Generally speaking, the judges enjoy that sort of stuff on the shore break.
Well, those replays showing the combination of turns as Jake came out of one into the other. It really does tick the boxes for many of the aspects of the judging criteria. And a good number is going to settle in here for Jake Marshall. He's going to fetch a 7.6 for that, just at the 20-minute mark. So now settling scores, it's going to go nicely into his two-wave total. And now he's going to need just a 6.91. He's currently sitting on that 7.6. And for now, a 6.83. So he's just got it up a 6.83 by a sliver to go into the lead. But you know that Miguel Pipo is going to be wanting to up his scores of his own. But great final unfolding here. Jake Marshall nicely into it now with that 7.6.
Yeah, I love it already. It's been really fascinating to watch this so far. Just seeing these two, how they approach this, what waves they kind of want to go for, what ones they're going to leave, maybe gift an opportunity to their opponent. Jake Marshall surfed that one really, really well. The rhythm, the way he kind of timed it, he had to let that wave set up a little bit into the shore break. And he's got himself right back in this. You would expect Miguel to improve, and that would mean, of course, that requirement could go up. But same will be said for Jake as well. He's got plenty of time to improve his scores. And he's right back at this now, 6.9 at the moment. Just thinking about the requirement he needs was not a big number at all.
Well, 5 judges on duty. One of them going as high as an 8. A couple of 7.5s in there just to sober it down to that 7.6. So it is Miguel Pipo in the lead. And have a look how slender that lead is right now. So just a 0.07. Jake Marshall sits on the 14.43. And Miguel Pipo on a 14.5. So very close final unfolding here. Of course, the weight of this event with the upgrade in the region of the northwest of Spain to a QS 10,000 really has packed the beach full here this afternoon. Finals day, a great success story again. Of course, we did crown a women's champion a couple of days ago with Omura Suzuki taking the win. And now we're deciding the men's winner here in Pantene. Lovely snap from Miguel Pipo. Medium-sized wave this, so not the biggest one we've seen. And you'll get the two-turn combination to the end. Flick over the lip. The crowd are loving it. Lots of surfers in the region here. Of course, lots of families making their way down. It is a festival atmosphere here. The Spanish certainly know how to celebrate. And they don't do it early in the day. They do it late in the day, Paul.
Well, you talk about a festival atmosphere. That's a great way to describe it. And even, you know, we're in a kind of green and quite sort of pastoral part of Spain here. But it's a bunch of people in camper vans here. So a bunch of people just coming and sleeping, basically, at 10,000 QS, hanging on the beach. There's a whole load of activities down here. And they are being treated to a mighty fine show on finals day. This is that look of the last wave as he just whips down the line. Or just blow a little tail on the end. Be interesting, this one score-wise. Think of the 6 as the backup and the 8.5 as the high score. We'll just have a little another play at this. So a little fanging setup turn from Miguel. And a little kind of slash down clipping turn. And he'll just blow that tail out. He'll do it with speed and style. You know, a little claim on the end. And another solid number coming in.
Wow. Medium-sized wave, but it had good pace all the way down it. And Miguel Pipo is going to fetch another excellent category score here, an 8.37. Good number, great pace to the final from the Brazilian here as we're moving closer to the half. In fact, we are in the second half of it already as we slip past that 17.5-minute mark. It was into the second half, so down now to a little over 16 to go. And a pair of 8s for the lead means Jake Marshall is chasing into the 9s now. That's not an impossible score because Marshall surfing has been on point all week long here in Spain, in the beautiful region.
Yeah, it has. That's a big number. Of course, got plenty of time for 2 waves. And that's going to feel good to Miguel. You saw him actually appreciate that at the end. It was a smaller wave, wasn't it? It's a smaller wave, but it just sat up sweetly for him. Just the way that first section just kind of offered up, allowed him to tag it a couple of times, and then getting that tweaking on the end, getting the progression on his final turn. So big total from him already. You're in a final. We've already got 16.87 on the board. That's going to feel good. Jake Marshall with a big number as that requirement just to go in one wave. But of course, plenty of time to get it in two. Just needs to get back in this really now. Doesn't want to just sort of sit there for too long. Obviously, that's not his choice. It just depends what happens in terms of the waves. But ideally, he wants to reply back as soon as possible.
Yeah, and Jake must reply with at least an 8 of his own now. Pair of 8s for the heat lead here for Miguel Pupo in a week that really has seen this left-hander offering lots of excellent category scores. Think back to David Silva going into a massive single punt for a 9.4. So many highlight moments this week. I mean, Jadson Andre's been good on that left-hander. Jesse Mendes has been pretty polished as well. And I know I'm mentioning a lot of Brazilian names there, but the boys have performed. Of course, the Australians faring very well here in this third QS 10,000 as well. A lot of going to the air here, and it's been perfect with that northerly wind.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we talk about that air wind blowing into the left, just favouring our surfers who want to go above the lip, helping them catch that board in the air. And it's been serving up some exciting encounters. A big crowd up here, got a reasonable way away from the surfers in the water, and those big air manoeuvres, they're always greeted with a huge roar, just giving that big visual flair and that excitement, that wow factor for the crowd. They've definitely been enjoying what they've seen so far from Miguel. There's a little bit of time will just tick away here and might just get Jake Marshall a little bit rattled. He is on the wrong side of a 9.27 at the moment.
Well, we saw in the semi-finals earlier against Jadson Andre, almost with, he had a salvage, really a last third of that earlier semi-final, and he did it in absolute style to get past Jadson Andre. So we know that he's got the big match temperament. We know that the young 21-year-old from North San Diego County has got the mettle. It's taken a while to shine through. Of course, last year Jake started with the 2018 campaign, strongly. Got that smaller QS event in Florida, the finals against Evan Geiselman. So we saw again him just putting his hand up early in 2018, but here in 2019, he is really into that top picture. And of course, by making the finals here at this QS 10,000, he does finish the highest placed American and will bump Baron Mamiya out of the invite to the up-and-coming Freshwater Pro.
Yeah, well, just that last opportunity we just saw on our screen on the wider shot. He did get a bomb and wasn't able to get anything going on it. It rattled away, so it won't affect the scoreline. But, of course, it does mean that P for priority will sit next to Pupa, so that'll eat up a bit more time as well. And now Jake Marshall will play second fiddle. I'm not sure that will affect too much. I think he might just try and look at a couple of little speculations, some wider ones on the inside. Probably be a smart thing to do. Think about the time left and the kind of score he needs to get. But again, just the way that last wave broke, just making his afternoon just slightly more difficult.
Well, Jake Marshall, the lone American on finals day. Of course, when we got to this morning and arrived at the beach with our 8 surfers ready for quarterfinals, we only had 2 Brazilians in the discussion, but one of them's made the final here. Meanwhile, here goes Jake Marshall. Comeback story possibly here. On the hunt for the big excellent category score, but he's got to put them together, and that one's gone wide again, and just a couple of heavy troughs in that wave face. He's one of the few errors we've seen from Jake Marshall on the wave face itself. He's getting a touch frustrated with this.
Yeah, that one pulled pretty wide on the bank. We thought he might try and snaffle something a little bit wider. That one pulled away, and it sort of stood up a little bit at the beginning. He saw that maneuver he selected. There's a little bit more cut back in that first setup turn, and then by the time he then squared off the bottom again, that thing just steamrolled away. There's not a great deal more he could have done, really. He might as well try and throw the board up because, as you mentioned, he does need really to go into that excellent range.
This is that one you spoke about.
So he just sort of sets up there, but by the time he does that, this thing gets really quick. That's a really nice hit, but then it just goes away, and it goes away into that rip. You see that kind of river of water just rushing out next to the rocks down there. And there's a lot of turbulence at the bottom of that wave, and it's flying as well. combination of those two means that he isn't able to get a sharp rail line up to the lip.
So just disengaging the fins there for Jake Marshall. Clock's now down to under 11 to go in this final here in Spain. Miguel Pupo doing a great job with his pairs of 8s. Of course, Miguel Pupo. Let's have a look at the heat recap of it, though, because Pupo's found a great set of numbers. We've got a good number to start. It was first blood to Jake Marshall in the encounter.
Well, a much smaller wave early on from Jake, and you think, looking at that wave, he did really well to juice this much out of it in terms of points. 6.83 is a big number for a pretty mediocre wave. But Miguel Pupo just brought this 8.5. He started off so strong in his semi earlier, and this wave, he just absolutely clocks it twice out the back, and then goes for that beautiful rotation on the inside. It's so smoothly done. That was a big number, 8.5. So this was sort of start of the comeback story from Marshall with a 7.6. You just see the speed and the kind of venom through his turns. That's a vicious hit on the end. Love the way he finished that. Stylish and polished as ever. But this here just made his requirement a lot more difficult. This was the 8.37 that Miguel got. And just belting this one. And again, a little flare up on the end. It's nicely done. He loved it. He knew that was going to put him in a really strong place in the heat. A massive total so far. 16.87, but there's loads of time to go, Gigs.
There is, and just the summary there in that recap showed one fairly obvious thing is that Miguel Pupo is picking the better, bigger waves of this final.
Yeah, definitely. It's just been that way. Sometimes we see that. It just happens to be the server that's in the line when they got priority, what kind of waves come through. Sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's a question of surfer choosing just to let one go and going on the next one. Combination of factors, of course. These two both pretty familiar with conditions now. They've surfed all the way to the final. But definitely, the standout story, aside from the surfing, of course, is the waves. And, yeah, Miguel's had by far the better waves.
Jake Marshall, the Californian's been very on point here, featuring in his first QS 10,000 final. Of course, getting the better of Jadson Andre in a semi-final a little while back. Of course, Jake Marshall getting past a young upstart in the name of Caleb Tancred from Australia on finals day. Of course, we mentioned a number of Australians here being part of the final 8. Of course, Manny McGillivray was in the last 8 as well, so good to have a lone South African. And then, of course, a spirited performance for Nom Mignot as well. But it's been Jake Marshall that has been on point. And now, can he find the spark here? He must look for now a 9.27. Clock is down to 8 minutes to go. And the quicker that clock moves now, Paul, the more it means that it's going to be a one-wave contribution to a final instead of maybe Jake Marshall cutting this thing down and building a couple of scores in the right direction. There is consistency here in the lineup in Spain. It has been fairly consistent all finals day. We speculate there's still a number of opportunities to come both of our surfers' way here.
Well, let's not count out, of course, the possibility that Pupo will improve as well. It does have that prio. He's in vicious form, and he wouldn't be overly surprised if he got an opportunity to improve on 8.37. So he could even make that requirement more difficult for Jake Marshall at the moment. It's already hefty. 9.27 is a big number. You're right, he does have time to get 2 waves, but he will start to get towards that point where it will start to look like one massive number. And that just comes down to kind of cooperation from the ocean, really. Can't do much about whether sets come or not. There's so much our servers can think about in terms of that preparation. We talked so much about boards and conditioning, the mental stuff, but ultimately, if you don't get a wave, what are you going to do?
It is that simple. I do speculate we'll see more rides from both of our finalists here, just now under 7 to go. But look at who's holding the priority. It is the heat leader, Pupo. So Pupo's pretty much managed this process from start to finish. Of course, so we think back to when he fetched that first 8.5, and he really went into a good rotation after that, and he keeps finding the slightly better waves in the lineup over his opponent.
Yeah, and the other thing, of course, the way these waves are standing up in these conditions, he's not taken off and just hucking loads of speed down the line and then just going for a big punt. He's actually combining them with big, powerful turns. He's mixing everything up. He's bringing everything to this. He's not kind of being like a one-trick pony and just looking to boost just air reverses. So he's smashing the lip. He's doing nice rail turns with speed in critical sections, and he's flaring on the inside. So really impressive, all-rounded. That's why his score's so massive.
Yep, no, Miguel Pupo is always had that polish. He's always had that smooth approach, sometimes almost too smooth. We've seen him, let's just stick with the live action here. This is Jake Marshall trying to salvage. his first appearance in a QS 10,000 finalist wave, is standing up for him. Couple of sections here, lovely rebound right there. And we hear the crowd already applauding, and that one went wide, but it kept a wall on it this time, Paul, so that could be a step in the right direction for Jake Marshall here.
Strong finish, lukewarmish start to that one. You're probably thinking wasn't super cooperative early on, and again, he had to just select a slightly less intense maneuver early on just to wait for that wave to stand up. And he did pick up the pace towards the end. That one stood up nice and strong from him on the inside. He belted it on the end. So you see here, it'll just float over that first section. And even this bit here, it's not a massive point scoring turn. Then he gets interested on the inside as it stands up beautifully. That is a real nice two-turn combo. He did that really well. The poise, the ball control, the balance is on point. There is a lot to love about the way this young American surfs. And he ripped this down on the inside. That's a nice big vertical snap. There, he'll tag it on the end, but maybe just think early on in that wave, if he could have done kind of 4 turns of that measure, there's 2 really good ones on the end. The opening was relatively soft, and certainly if you're thinking about, you know, a score of 9.27, not really on offer with that.
Not really on offer, and in fact, the panel saw a whole bunch of little things that didn't make them pay out. A 6.7 is not going to factor into the 2-wave scoreline of Jake Marshall here. So Pupo still leading, and Marshall still chasing the 9.27. Starting to look around for all kinds of opportunities here as we get deeper into that final horn. Just over 4 to go now before we close this off and hand out a 10,000 point haul. And you see Marshall Fost now approaching Miguel Pupo in the lineup. It's a big playing field here in Pantene, and the size looks like it's lifted a little bit as well here, Paul, in the late afternoon.
Yeah, definitely. It's jacking up, isn't it? We thought it might. We were kind of hoping for a little pulse, that tide rolling back as well, and they're standing up pretty steep on this sandbar as well. So great call just to have a little wait to get started today. It's really just given our surfers loads of opportunity for a really exciting final.
Well, you saw Jake show interest in this, so kind of selling it to Pupo. Not the best wave that Pupo's found, so little sell there from Jake Marshall. Gets the priority back now with 3.5 minutes to go. So now the door is open for the American. I did feel that was a sell, Paul.
Yeah, well, it worked to the point of view that Miguel went the wave and won't be improving his scoreline. So now it all really boils down to this, and we're going to have that conversation about probably one wave. Realistically, just technically he's got time if he took off now to get 2, but you're realistically thinking it's going to be a one shot. It's going to be a Hail Mary. He'll need to go massive. Let's remind ourselves, 9.27, that requirement. So basically, he's probably thinking he'll need to go something huge in the air.
Yeah, I was just going to say that if you look at the way the scores have come for Miguel Pupo, 2-turn combinations and then to the air each time. It's been a bit of a formula to Miguel Pupo. Let's have a look at this one. This is the one that Jake put him under pressure to take.
Yeah, so slightly more of an inside wave. Just got that weird kind of wobble to it. He'll lose it on the bottom turn. So it won't improve on anything. Yeah, it was the 2-turn combinations with the flare on the end, but that got 8. Of course, Jake Marshall needs a 9.27, so he needs something considerably better than the high scores in one wave. It basically needs to go as close to perfect as he possibly can, and he's only got just over 2 on the clock.
So that fall for Pupo doesn't feature 3.9. But the heat leader in blue is now down to 2 minutes before he will be raising his arms and celebrating here, unless the American Jake Marshall can find the 9.27, moving inside that 2-minute mark. And we're looking for positioning in the lineup here for Jake Marshall. He's kind of found his spot. He's sitting there. We are watching Miguel Pupo moving back towards him. And of course, Jake Marshall really wrestled a big moment opportunity with his semi-final win over Jadson Andre. Can he stay in the momentum? Can he stay on the front foot here? Time is moving as we hit the 90-second mark now. And everyone is on their feet here. There's a lot of people speculating and favoring Miguel Pupo, and there are a lot of Jake Marshall fans as well. It is the Galician crowd are just lapping this up here. It is a tangible excitement here in the greater contest area as we hit the 1-minute mark. And Jake Marshall still is just playing the patience game here. He knows he needs something special. There is some movement outside there, Paul. I'm just seeing the white caps on the way outside, but a little bit of movement moving into the bay here. It's now 45 seconds on the clock, and you know that heats can turn. We're just seeing movement from Jake Marshall here. He was sitting pensively. He's now paddling. Now looking around again. Clock is ticking. 30 seconds remaining in the final of the QS 10,000 here, and there are waves approaching.
A glimmer of opportunity in the form of a wave here for Jake Marshall.
Well, it's a big one, and Jake's going to get on board it. And the body language is going to say it just again, that white water just ruffling him. And with that, Jake is not going to get another opportunity. And the story is crystallizing here. It is already celebrations and whistles. And the countdown now for the ABANCA Galicia Classic Surf Pro Final. And there it is. It's going to be an official result. Brazilian Miguel Pupo is back in 2019, and he is going to take a win in the big opportunity here. 10,000 points going to that man in blue.
Well, a massive result for Miguel, and a really well surfed contest by him. He's looked great form in all of his heats. You can't begrudge him this victory. He's looked so good down here, and he still brought his A game to the final. You're going to get a couple of 8s in a final in any contest. You're going to be in with a really good shout. So treating the crowd to a bit of a treat with that surfing. You know, sometimes in finals we maybe get slightly more modest scores. Things are conservative, a bit more tetchy. That's not at all what we saw there. And Miguel bringing that entertainment. Quick word from Marshall, though. He got a bit unlucky in that with his waves. He's been an incredible surfer. He's on the brink of another couple of big events coming up as well. So it'll be really interesting to see how that young man's career goes. But we'd expect on the up and up.
Yes, Jake Marshall, the American, would say this final was his softest heat of the entire week. But still, look at the scores that he fetched, 7.6 and a 6.83. Those are good numbers in the context of the qualifying series. 14.43 for the runner-up, Jake Marshall. But all credit to that man on screen, Miguel Pupo. He has done a good job. He's put his hands up. He's been through quite a journey of his own. Remember that he was a championship tour surfer for a number of seasons. Did the backwards and forwards. But I tell you what, he is back and looking for a slot come year end for the full-time employment at the championship tour level. And a worthy winner. They're starting to see some emotion spill out of Miguel Pupo here.
What a cool comeback story. You mentioned being on the championship tour. He was like the first sort of front, if you like, of that Brazilian storm, wasn't he? He was at the vanguard, one of these young, exciting, spontaneous guys when they first came about. And I think, you know, in the last few years, he's maybe seen a few other surfers from that part of the world just kind of come past him a little bit and kind of get the hype, get the attention, getting the results as well. And this is a great comeback story from Miguel Pupo, and it's really awesome to see.
Yeah, it's easy to sometimes lose his name in the discussion of all of the talent, all of the goofy footers that have come out of Brazil over the last number of years. You know, everyone is often overshadowed by the Gabriel Medina story. There's the X factor of Jaeger Dora. There's the new talent of David Silva.
Italo Ferreira.
There's Italo Ferreira. There's Jesse Mendes. But Miguel Pupo is one of those sort of stallions that just has a little bit of a dignity to his surfing as well. It's solid. It's smooth. It's often been a little understated. It's been so smooth and polished.
Yeah, well, we talk about that. You know, sometimes you can be a little bit too clean and stylish, and you don't make people appreciate just how hard it is what you're doing. And there's been a little bit of that sometimes with him as well. He has been super smooth, but just love to see him bring this one home here. And as we've been saying, he's been so strong all week, but all that goes out the mind. You've got to be strong in those final 35 minutes, and a really strong start. A couple of 8s from him, and a job well done. Well-deserved victory.
Yeah, a good road for Miguel Pupo. There are the official results of the final of the third QS 10,000 of the season. Miguel Pupo 16.87 against Jake Marshall's 14.43. A good result on paper and an excellent outcome, no matter, of course, Jake Marshall by making the finals. We'll just confirm again, is the highest ranked American on the qualifying series at this stage.
Yeah, so great opportunity for him. Let's think about points for Pupo, because that is essentially the entire reason we're here. We talked about that magic 18,000. We think the cutoff's going to be around about there. It's hard to say exactly. Different number of total points on offer, but this win here This nets him another 10,000. And by the time you factor in the score that he replaces, he comes with 17,900. So just 100 shy of that cutoff of 18,000. So he's looking pretty good. Nothing definitive, but pretty good, Giggsy, with some big events to come.
Yes, of course, 6 QS 10,000s this year. We're now at the halfway mark, so to speak, of the QS 10,000 chapter. And of course, this year, the third one, Miguel Pupo taking the win, taking the full 10,000 points here. The boys will be celebrating long into the night here.
That's cold in there, Giggs. I can confirm that. I went for a little body bump in my shorts this morning, and it's freezing in there, so I'm really impressed with Samuel getting in there in his T-shirt.
Well, all credit to young Sam Pupo, younger brother, now just celebrating there. Of course, Sam Pupo, we've seen him as a wild card at the Championship Tour level already. So the talent in the family is there. And right now, it's all about older brother Miguel. It's just the emotion spilling out. We know how important it is. That's Jadson Andre down there. Of course, Jadson is leading the qualifying series. And now the celebrations will start for Team Brazil here, as they should.
I love this. And you know what? They've even gone one step better with the checks. They didn't even wait for him to get on the beach. They grabbed him in the water, kind of waist-deep water. They went and fetched him. And I absolutely love this. There's that brotherhood, obviously, with his younger brother Samuel, but Jadson Andre, I mean, look how stoked Jadson is as well. You know, he lost on a finals day that we were all thinking he's in a really good shot, and just love the way that as soon as that happens to our surfers out of Brazil, they instantly support their compatriot that's still in. Beautiful scenes, Giggs.
Yes, of course. When we woke up this morning, Jadson Andre and Miguel Pupo were on opposite sides of the draw, so we didn't really speculate any cross-reference discussion of those two surfers. You know, we thought, well, yeah, maybe they would get to the finals together, but all credit to Miguel Pupo. He's kind of slipped on the quieter side of discussion as well. He's just moved his way through heat by heat here, and now the tradition of the chair all the way up to the podium for the winner here in Pantin in Spain. What a story for Miguel Pupo. And you know, this is we go back to, we were introduced to him at Championship Tour level already all the way back in 2011.
Yeah, seems like a long time ago now. And it was that young kind of up-and-comer story. We're like, okay, what's this? This is something new. This is someone who's going to do airs. He's smooth. And he was a breath of fresh air when he first got on tour. He did well to stick around for a while. It just did feel like maybe surfing just kind of fell out of favour a little bit. A lot of other things went on. As I mentioned before, a lot of other surfers came up around him. And it's great to see that comeback story now. And he's looking pretty good. We're not deciding anything, but he's looking pretty solid for getting a spot in 2020.
Yep, he is a great all-rounder. Of course, remember back in 2012, he'd get all the way to 9th in the Pipe Masters. And that was pretty much his full-time year on tour. And Miguel Pupo can really put it in the big stuff, but he's really got his beach break game down in 2019. And a worthy winner here. Smooth, powerful surfing combinations and maneuvers. And Paul will talk about it for a while, of course, still. But his two scores in this here final were made up of big, powerful combinations of turns and then putting the cap on top with the progressive punts into the air.
Yeah, definitely. And you can't help but be impressed by that. It's all about, first of all, getting the opportunities, but then taking them when they come. And there can be that tendency to maybe try and overdo it as well. You can even put pressure on yourself with your own performances in the early rounds, and maybe, everyone's expecting to take to the air. So really impressive to see how he could mix it up using those combinations. He's just showed us a bit of everything. He's a good competitor as well. Let's not get away from that. Just talk about surfing from the sake of surfing, but it's worth bringing up as well. Miguel Pupo, he knows how to put heat together. He knows how to compete. All those kind of situations, that experience that you talked about, and comes together beautifully and turns into a win. Great job.
Absolutely. We're talking and digging into the win here of Miguel Pupo, of course, the third QS 10,000 of the year. And really, as we mentioned, he kind of slipped on that quieter side of discussion. We had a lot of discussions hinging on Jadson Andre. There were other topics that we got stuck into. We didn't really over-focus on Miguel Pupo, but a great run all the way down that silent side of the draw, so to speak.
Yeah, just kind of slips streaming through, and we think about sometimes that sort of peaking too early story, and just that energy, maintaining that energy, maintaining that form. The most important time to do it, of course, is finals day. That's exactly what he's done. A
well-navigated week here in Spain for Miguel Pupo. I'm just milling over the way he put those scores together. They were solid. He picked the best waves in the final. There's no question of that. And really look, it was precision surfing on the backhand from Jake Marshall. We've spoken about it all week long. He really was on point, but Jake did not find the quality waves in that final. And, well, all kudos to Miguel Pupo here.
Yeah, well, certainly, even compare that early wave that Jake rode. The waves that Miguel got after that, the sets were basically like twice the size and just so much more energy and impetus to them. Dealing with that speed really, really well and just looking such good value with the variety of the repertoire as well. So just ticking so many boxes down here. He's always a popular surfer wherever he goes. Super nice guy, humble athlete. And he's been really good value for this win. A new champion in Pantin, of course. We've been talking 30-plus years. We're going to have a new name on that honours board as you come into the Surf Village.
Yeah, it's a wonderful story. And, of course, the upgrade of this has the same amount of points as the US Open of Surfing, the same as Bolido, the same as Sunset, and, of course, Haleiwa as well. An addition of an extra QS 10,000 on the schedule. The opportunity's been seized. The points have been cashed. And we're ready to listen and hear from our winner, Miguel Pupo. He is down there, and he's just soaking up the moment with Shannon.
What an incredible day. It's been a long road and an emotional victory for you here, Miguel. Some words for all that are watching.
There's no words, I think, and just want to thank God. It was a hard week, a few hard years too. But just happy for sure. And I just want to thank my family, my wife, my kids, my dad, my mom as well. It's been a tough few years, and they stuck with me. They kept giving me power to keep going, and I stopped believing in myself a few years ago. Now I'm back here, so thank God. Thank you.
What an amazing effort. You're making my eyes well as Miguel. This is just absolutely incredible. What does it mean to you to win here? Is this the largest win for you, the most important one?
It's funny because I walked the first day and I saw the wall with all the names. And I kind of thought with myself to write my name on it at the end of the week. So I brought the pen. I'm going to write it down for sure. Thank you.
Well, it's emotions. It's all overflowing here. And, the one thing that Miguel says there very openly is I don't think we understand that buckle in the road that it was for Miguel there a couple of seasons back.
Yeah, really frank and honest there. Yeah. And we talk about, sport loves a comeback story, right? What's better than seeing someone kind of, doing well, getting knocked down and kind of going a little bit into the wilderness, a little bit into oblivion. We maybe didn't appreciate quite how bad that was. He even said he stopped believing in himself for a while. And that's a really heavy thing for an elite athlete to do because confidence is everything. And it's an amazing story for him. I'm really happy. And, I think collectively, everyone that's been around surfing for a little while will know what a nice guy and how well respected he is. What a great story, Giggs.
Oh, it is. It was just emotion spilling over there. Of course, credit to Jake Marshall as well. He's going to be rocketing up that qualifying series rankings. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back for the prize giving. We're going to honor our champions here in beautiful Pantin in Spain. What a moment. Well, finals day, done and dusted. It's in the history books. At QS 10,000 now. Well, what a final we just saw. I mean, I'm still harping on the emotions of Miguel Pupo there. I mean, we see athletes go through that moment of just emotional release. But wow, that was tears aplenty.
Yeah, definitely. And those comeback stories. That's something I think everyone can kind of relate to them a little bit in kind of anything in life, whether it's sport or something else, just something really cool, whether you're like a massive surf fan or whether you just follow it a little bit. You can't help but appreciate seeing someone, maybe lose a little bit of their status, a little bit of their position in the world, in the universe. And it's so cool to see all the momentum back with him. And we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We're not confirming anyone's qualification, but if it's 18,000 points, he's on 17,900. He's very, very close, Giggs.
Well, of course, it's just moments before we do the official update of those qualifying series rankings. That picture not changing too much. Jadson Andre going up into the lead now. And well over the 20,000 point mark. Of course, we came here with Jorgen Kuzenet in the lead. He's dropped down now, settling in at about third there, Paul. Alex Ribeiro, care of a good run here at the QS 10,000, is jumping up to second.
Well, we've shaken up the ratings, but, you know, they're not going to stay like that for very long. So that's the cool thing about what's going on, because we're going to the Azores next week for 6,000 points up for grabs there, so another big event, and then straight after that we're coming back to Ericeira as another 10,000. So before the end of September, we're just going to keep stirring that pot. I love it.
Yeah, and we saw that this where people down in the 50s and 60s rocketing up. You look at the young Australians making finals day in Morgan Sibilik, and of course the other very unknown names, Caleb Tancred. These kids are coming out of the board riders in Australia, straight onto a year or two of juniors, having a knock on the qualifying series here, and rocketing way up. So it's a great story.
Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing, you know, this, we talk about that momentum, and seeing the surfers that perform really well over here. Are they going to bring that over into Azores? Or maybe people had a little bit of a shocker, or maybe people that were flying well earlier in the year haven't really made anything going here. They might have something to say. You know, we're kind of watching what's going on. They'll try and just pick up a little bit of the buzz, maybe try and get themselves back in the story. What a compelling situation unfolding.
Remember, there's a whole bunch of names that are starting to get pressure on themselves. I'm just thinking names like Connor O'Leary. I'm thinking names like Jack Freestone. And there's many, many more to that. Jesse Mendez, who's those all guys sitting low down on the Jeep leaderboard right now on the championship tour side of discussion. And the fact of the matter is that by the end of September, we're going to even further crystallize the picture of qualification in 2020. We're just moments away now from the official awards ceremony, and that's the hardware on offer. That's going to make the way to the living room of Miguel Pippo, and of course Jake Marshall's going to get that runner-up trophy.
Cool as well that Miguel touched on those names down as you come into the little village here. We were talking about it earlier as well. He said he saw those names, wanted to get himself on there. We have been talking about it a lot, but it is a feature. You know, some Q events haven't been going for as long as this one. 30 plus years. This has been a huge event in Europe. It's one of the reasons why the crowd's so big. The crowd's been a major story down here today, bringing that energy, bringing the support. I mean, there are so many people on the grass down here. They're almost like coming in our booth, right? They're kind of like, I think that's a first for me. I haven't seen that before. So capacity crowd down here. And just loving it, absolutely loving it. What a great day of surfing.
Now, of course, Pantene carries so much history and tradition. Of course, looking at that winners board that Miguel referred to last year, Wesley Dantes got the win. Of course, those were all when they were QS 3000s. Jorgen Kuzenet's fetched points here in 2017. Kanoa Igarashi, the winner in 2016. And you reel it all the way back, you see names like Marlon Lipke and Aritz Arambura getting wins here. Billy Stearman brought himself into the limelight, so to speak, all the way back in 2010. Big William Cardoza got back-to-back wins here all the way back in 2009, 2008. Pat Kadowski's got a win here in 2006, and you just go back down. Maz Quinn is a winner. TJ Barron was a winner here as well. Just so many names here as you just peel it back. Eric Ribeiro back in 2003. Sean Sutton. Remember those names, Paul? Back-to-back wins there for him. Names like Sonny Russell, Joel Parker back in 1999 in his year where he won the J-Bay event as a wild card. That was still qualification year. So Pantene played a part for Parko back in the history books.
Well, the other thing about this, it always comes this time of year. So end of August, start of September. And obviously, you know, the points would be equivalent for whatever it's rated that year as another event early in the year, but it just seems to matter more now. You know, you're coming off that back straight. You're coming into really starting to crystallise on those ratings and see where we are. And it just seems like it counts more. And it definitely feels like that this year too.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, that winners list just reels all the way back to 1988. Of course, now 31 years of crowning champions here in Galicia, in Pantene, in Spain. And we're just moments away now from plugging into our finalists. And like you see, there's a little bit of chitter that it is pretty cold. That water's been freezing all week long. So the boys will be wanting to just stay warm and celebrate as we're almost ready to throw it down to Peter Mel for the awards ceremony. Just see all the festivities here. You're talking about people celebrating, but this grass in front of us during the finals was absolutely packed. It was real sports festivities.
Yeah, well, the other cool thing as well about Pantene and the Pantene Soundwaves is shortly after this podium, that's going to turn into a dance floor down there. And it starts early. Generally, in this part of the world, in Spain, festivities start pretty late. They go on pretty late. the cool thing about this event is we start pretty much on the end of the early afternoon, so this will just turn into a celebration of high-performance surfing, into a bunch of music and good times. I can't wait.
Yeah, absolutely. The Spanish know how to celebrate. We are now ready to throw it down to the prize giving of the ABANCA Galicia Classic Surf Pro. Let's throw it down to Peter Mel and honor our champions.
Check, check. Here we go. So we'll wait for the broadcast.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias a todo el mundo. Buenas tardes. Al igual que con la entrega de premios de las chicas, vamos a intentar hacer lo mejor posible. La entrega tiene que ser en inglés, ya que está retransmitida para todo el mundo. Y para ello tenemos aquí al gran Peter Mel. Pero en fin, tenemos un minuto para dar las gracias en castellano. En primer lugar, un fuerte aplauso a todos vosotros y vosotras. Aupa Pantín y Aupa, este gran público. Muchísimas gracias. Eso es lo primero, a todo el público y a los locales. En segundo lugar, a los organizadores y a los patrocinadores, al igual que a las instituciones públicas, muchísimas gracias. Un fuerte aplauso también a todos los sponsors. Venga, aplaudir, que sin ellos no hay ni doble 10.000 ni campeonato de longboard. Las cosas como son. Y sin más ni más, un fuerte aplauso para Peter Mel, que es todo un honor tener a una leyenda aquí presentando en riguroso directo. Go for it, Pete.
Buenos a todos. Mi español es muy malo, so I will speak in English, and of course our boy here will take care of the Spanish. What an event. The WSL is so happy to be able to be back here in Pantene and see the upgrade to this event. I think the athletes have been very happy. We saw the level rise. I mean, especially a big hand for all the surfistas who put together such a great show.
Dice que es todo un placer estar aquí y ver cómo este evento ha sido promocionado a una categoría de 10.000 y una ovación, por favor, para los surfers que están ahí.
Our first award for the evening will be our best wave trophy, and with that, with a 9.4, and if you all saw the highlights, was an amazing air by David Silva. So congratulations, David Silva. Giving our award, come on up, our award is Jaime Perozo, who is responsible for the sports marketing and sponsorship of Hijos de Herrera. So thank you very much.
Bueno, es el premio a la mejor ola del evento, un 9.40 por ese increíble alley-oop para David Silva, y hace entrega del premio Jaime de Cabreiro A y Estrella Galicia.
And now to our athletes who finished in an equal third and been on a great roll, and hoping to keep that roll going on into the next few events. But I know a crowd favorite, and also soon to become one of the crowd favorites in equal third, we have Jadson Audrey and Morgan Siblick. So congratulations to them. Step up on the stage, boys.
Suben al podium los terceros del evento, Jadson Andre y Morgan Sibilic. Un fuerte aplauso una vez más. En español el aplauso. Que se note. Para los terceros clasificados.
And handing out the trophies are Jaime Perozo and Ana Lamas, representative of the Coruña's provincial government. So thank you for your support.
Una pequeña anécdota. Jadson Andre encontró un gato hace 5 días en la basura, lo han estado alimentando. Mañana se tienen que ir, así que si alguien quiere hacerse cargo del gato, cuando acabe la entrega de premios, nos acercamos a Jadson Andre.
And now to our finalists. A huge congratulations to our runner-up, a young American who you will know very soon, as if you don't know now. I'd like to congratulate Jake Marshall, moving up the rankings all the way into the top 10 at number 8 on the qualifying series. Any of this? Big hand for Jake Marshall.
Un fuerte aplauso, por favor, para el segundo clasificado. Quedaros con esta cara. Ha subido hasta la 8ª posición en los rankings internacionales, Jake Marshall.
And of course, handing out this award, Sergio Saavedra, our sports counselor of the City Council of Valdivino. So thank you for your support.
I better get off the stage because this is going to be a good one.
Keep going, Pete. Keep going.
Oh, no.
Come on, Pete.
All right. Well, it's been a long road and an amazing comeback for this surfer. He has had his time in the winner's circle, but it has been a long time between drinks. I'd like to congratulate and show your champion, Miguel Pupo, and giving the winner award, Roman Rodriguez from the Tourism and Cultural Councilor of Junta de Galicia. Thank you very much. And this is the time when I get off the stage.
Bueno, ahí está el ganador, el gran Miguel Pupo. Un fortísimo aplauso una vez más para él.
One more
Vamos
time,
ahí.
a big round of applause for your champion, Miguel Pupo. And of course, boys, I'll send it back to you in the booth.
Bueno, parece que la retransmisión en inglés ha acabado ya. Pete, should we share the mic with Miguel?
Oh, yes, of course. We
Go
want to
for
hear
it.
from it. Can I get up on now? Come on down. Few words for our champion. Miguel, I mentioned it had been a long time since we've seen you on the winner's podium. What have you been doing to get to this place and celebrate this championship?
First of all, I want to thank God. You know, He gave me the strength to be here, and thank my family too. This is one for my wife. She's been through some thin times right now, and she was with me when I got disqualified from the CT, and it was a hard time for me getting dropped from major sponsor. And after I had my kids, and she gave me so much strength too. So this one's for her, and I want to thank all the event organizers as well, and thank you for the event. This is probably one of the best QSs I've been to. You know, everything. We have food, we have all the comfortable stuff at the athletes area. So thank you so much. You guys work hard, I know, and thank you very much for what you do. And ahora, gracias a todos en la playa. Mi español no es de los mejores, pero ¿qué energía tienes? Todos, muchas gracias por todo. Gracias.
Venga, un fuerte aplauso, por favor, para Miguel Pupo. Decía que dedicaba el trofeo a su hija, que le ha dado la energía para volver a lo más alto e intentar recalificarse al CT. Bonitas palabras de Miguel. Vamos a proceder a la foto oficial de los galardonados, de los campeones. Ahí está, la foto con las autoridades, por favor. Por muchos años más de Pantene Classic. Vamos ahí, esa foto.
Well, festivities are about to start here in beautiful Pantene in Spain. Of course, in the history books now, the third QS 10,000 of the year, done and dusted. A female winner in the form of Amuro Suzuki. And, of course, Miguel Pupo taking those full points. What a festive time. I'm already hearing the music getting turned up in the background. The Spanish now to celebrate, Paul.
I told you it's going to turn straight into a dance floor from that podium. Cool to see. Pupo's actually got his name on the back of his wetsuit. I noticed earlier, so can't be too many winners have had their name on their wetsuit, so I like it. It's a nice touch from him, and super cool words. Again, that emotion on the podium just coming through, and I just love a comeback story.
Yeah, you start with 112 surfers on the men's side. You started with 60. It's close to 180 surfers we've had to dig through here this week. It's an amazing story, and as you would expect here with the addition of the third QS 10,000 of the year, those rankings are going to continue to jump and change. Have a look at the new top 10 on the qualifying series. Jadson Andre has gone up into the lead, and Jorgen Kuzene is going to settle down at fourth. Miguel Pupo, care of his win here, is up to third. But, Paul, have a look. Jake Marshall is in there.
Yeah, well, it's Jorgen Kuzene and Baron Mamiya who've slipped, and Yegadora who's slipped down, basically. So everyone else on there has made progress, but really impressive story from Pupo, of course, our winner in third. Just touched on it earlier, though. The cool thing is that we're going to stir this pot again real soon. We're going to go over to the Mid-Atlantic in the Azores for 6,000 and then bring it back for another 10 just down the coast in Portugal. So by end of September, we could have some brand new names coming up, which is going to be really interesting to see. Some surfers that aren't in the top 10. There'll be some people lurking down there, just kind of sharpening their daggers, Gigs.
Well, a couple of Australians sitting in the top 10 there. Liam O'Brien's dropped down to 10th. Saw Maddie Banting sitting nicely with the quarterfinal finish here, finishing and settling at 5th. And, of course, it's September. It is that time of the year with this in Spain done. Now the Azores comes up a QS 6,000. And then, of course, over to Ericeira for another 10,000. Lots to talk about. Stay with us with the qualifying series. So much to follow. And we'll leave you with the highlights. It's goodbye from myself, Gig Celios and Paul Evans. We'll see you from the Azores.